What up, fellas? It's Ty. Welcome back to the channel where we discuss all things prostate and prostate cancer related. If you're new here, welcome to you. If you've been here for a while, watched the video, maybe even liked and subscribed, I appreciate you. And welcome back. So today I want to talk to you about being a prostate cancer survivor. If you were recently diagnosed with prostate cancer, this video will include you, so don't click off quite yet. So when I think about that survivor thing, I did this cursory look, right? So I was trying to figure out what things were out there for prostate cancer survivors. And immediately I noticed that they had assigned it similar to other certain types of cancers. And so what happens is that you have a treatment plan, you come out on the other end, you're shown to be prostate cancer free, and then they slap that survivor tag on you. But I never quite looked at it that way. So clearly I know what the word survive means that you've been through something and you've lived on the other side. And I'm like, prior to my diagnosis of prostate cancer, I didn't know I had prostate cancer, but I was living with prostate cancer. And so the same way that I was living with prostate cancer, once my prostate was removed with the cancer inside, now that I'm prostate cancer free, nothing has changed for me in terms of how I see the survivorship of it. Because I have been living with, living beyond, or living through that process. And that's one of the definitions I found. Things like living with, living through, living beyond your prostate cancer diagnosis. And I said, well, short-sighted to say that if you had radiation or if you had a radical prostatectomy, because that includes those people who select active surveillance. Because you know that you have prostate cancer and you're living with it. And you have a process and a plan in place to make sure you take care of that. So that's how I look at being a prostate cancer survivor. I was like, you know what? They never talk about what it looks like to survive, right? So the thing is that there's no discussion about your quality of life. And that's why a lot of men find themselves in circumstances where this is very difficult for them, because we never really have to feel and get in touch with how we feel about something that's happening or going on. And so as we go through this journey, we have to come to terms with some things that are not so exciting to come to terms with. Hey, you might not be able to do this again, or you might not be able to do this like that again, or you might have to go through that and you may end up in a circumstance that causes you some embarrassment over here. That survivorship that they talk about, that's not easy. When we talk about it in a holistic view, we're like, listen, if your outcomes weren't that bad, then when we start talking about the survivorship that you had, well, it's not that bad. I mean, you're doing great. On the flip side of that, if your outcomes are still a part of what's going on with you every single day and you're struggling with that, then of course, if somebody talks to you about being a prostate cancer survivor, you're not going to have the best stories to tell. So we need to look at this for what it is. And I really think that after all of this time, it's kind of the medical field has done us what I consider to be a disservice, right? Because there's two parts to this, and they're only focused on one. There's one side that's the medical side and making sure that you get treatment for whatever your prostate cancer is, your stage, your Gleason score, making sure that you are able to go through whatever that process is and hopefully on the other side end up prostate cancer free. But then there's a whole nother side of this, which is once they make you prostate cancer free and you are dealing with this whole process that you've been through as a survivor, and now you've been slapped with this prostate cancer survivor tag, what does that mean exactly? Because there's a mental side to this that goes into the survivorship. There are a number of things that go into this, gentlemen, that aren't easy to go through. I talk about one all the time. I've mentioned in at least 3 videos where I'm on this schedule. After my radical prostatectomy, at first it was every 3 months. Now it's every 6 months, and I think it's like after 5 years of every 6 months, then they'll do it once a year. And that is to go back, get my blood drawn, and sit there and wait as they read my PSA, and hopefully it comes back under 1. Man, the anxiety attached to that is terrible. It's just terrible because I know that I have that appointment coming, so that bothers me. Then I have to sit in the waiting room, get the blood drawn, wait for the results. That kicks my butt. And I'm sure that if you were newly diagnosed, or if you've just had a radical prostatectomy, or maybe you had a taste of this when you were waiting for the results of the biopsies and all the rest of those things, waiting for results to be given good news or bad news would tear a man apart. And the problem is, we don't share like that. Like I said, we don't deal with the feels. So, when you're not dealing with the feels, what you end up having is a circumstance where a man is going through something he just ain't told you. You just ain't said anything, but that doesn't mean that that's not what's going on. So we're talking about the survivorship. How are you doing in your survivorship? How are you doing? Are you making those changes that we discussed? Are you really struggling? One of the things that when I was going through this video was very difficult for me to make because my mind kept jumping all over the place on the things that I wanted to hit. And ideally, the thing that I touched on first was the mental health aspect of this. Just making sure that you can get up in the morning and you can go take care of your responsibilities is sometimes more damning than the other parts of the stuff that's going on. And I say that because you have to be careful what you tell yourself, gentlemen. So I read all of the comments and things, and, you have to be careful what you say to yourself. I liken it to the YouTube algorithm. Right, so the YouTube algorithm, if you come on here a lot and you look at a certain topic, eventually when you look at that, YouTube starts presenting you with information that goes along with the topics that you've been looking for. And your brain likewise is the same way. The more you tell it negative stuff, the more it's going to look for things to reinforce your negative thoughts. And the more of those you have, the more of a snowball that occurs. And you want to stop that and put that in its tracks. I often say that whatever it is you tell yourself, you'll believe, because you won't lie to yourself. So if you tell yourself negative things, we're never going to get over this incontinence, my penis is never going to work. Medically, that may be the case, but you don't have to accept that mentally. You don't have to accept that there's nothing you can do, because the doctor is very clear and it's very easy for them to tell you, hey, there's nothing we can do. But you don't have to tell yourself that, because even if medically right now it's nothing, that doesn't mean 2 years, 3 years down the road, they won't be able to do that. So you need to keep a positive attitude to make sure that you can keep moving forward. Again, you don't want to sit there and have something materialize, and you're sitting there saying that, you know what, I think this, and this, and this, and this, and all of a sudden your brain and your body and everything else is like, hey. Because the worst one is, I can't go on. I can't live like this. Those things concern me. Because yes, you can live like this. And yes, you can go on. And the only person that can stop you from that is you. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's prostate cancer, when it's caught, it's going to be in a positive standpoint. No. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to go through this process, go through it with your head held high and tell yourself, we're in this battle, in this war, to win. And whatever it is that we have to think is going to occur, it doesn't mean that it has to occur. But it also means that you do not have to abandon that it might happen. As always, fellas, I hope this finds you well. Peace and blessings.